Thou shalt know thy customer lifetime value and invest accordingly. All right, commandment number 6 of internet marketing. This one's a fun one. I like this one. It's awesome. And you need to be aware of this idea, this concept, to help you invest the right amount of money in your marketing. All right, so what is customer lifetime value? So, customer lifetime value is how much money, or it's not actually how much money, it's how much profit that customer will spend with you on average over the entire duration of your relationship with them. So if you're in a business where customers pretty much only ever buy from you once, and then your lifetime value is pretty much whatever profit you make from that one transaction. So, let's say you sell people, trying to think of something that would be like probably only once in a lifetime, but let's say you're a home builder, okay? And most people are only going to build one new home in their life. And so the lifetime value of that customer is the profit off of one job. So let's say, I don't know exactly how numbers run for home builders, but let's say you build $1 million home, and on average, you profit $150,000 off of that one build. Off of that, per build, that's how much you make. So basically, your lifetime value of that customer is $150,000. Now, let's say you are selling, let's say you're more of a home services business, all right? And so you're a plumber, and your typical plumbing call, your typical average visit, this is all, you work on averages here, okay? But you look at all your numbers, and you look at, okay, so your average customer, per visit, you profit, let's say $150. Well, let's make it $100 to keep it simple, okay? Average visit, after you've paid all your overhead, all your workers, everything, you make $100 per visit. Okay. And on average, you look at how long your customers stick with you, and you may have to make some guesses here, but you should be able to kind of figure this out. So let's say, okay, on average, you're like, okay, usually we get 7 visits with a customer over the lifespan of our relationship. Either after that, it's like either it's so long we can't, that's the end of it, or like they go to a different plumbing company eventually, or whatever it is. But so on average, you have 7 visits with every customer. Some of them are going to be way higher. They're going to be 15, 16. Some of them you only ever serve them once. But your average is 7 visits with your customers, okay? So because you made $100 on average profit per visit, and your average number of visits or calls, or I don't even know what you call that exactly in the industry, is 7. It's 100 times 7. So $700 is how much each customer, on average, is worth to your business. That's the lifetime customer value. Okay, that number is extremely important for your advertising. Why is that? Well, if you view your advertising as, I can only afford to spend however much that would allow me to still make a profit on the first visit, that's a very different number than the lifetime value of the customer. So for instance, let's say you look at this plumbing business, and you're like, okay, I can make $100 per visit, which means I want to advertise, and I want to still have profit off that first visit. Now, you can do it this way if you want, but that means your advertising budget, your all-in budget for your advertising management and your ad spend is only $50 per customer, because you want to make $50 on that first visit. And then, so you're going to have a pretty modest budget. Marketing's going to have to be very efficient for you to be able to meet that goal. Now, if you can do that, great, because your actual customer value you're actually going to make $650 over the lifetime of that customer. But the thing is, you may be really limiting your investment into your marketing, and therefore limiting the growth of your company. assuming you can cash flow it, you could make a very reasonable case that you would spend $350 to acquire a new customer, because that customer is worth, remember, a total of $700 in profit. So subtract 350, so half of that for the advertising costs, so management, ad spend, all that stuff. Keeping up your website, SEO, all that stuff could go in that number. And then you're still going to make $350 off of every new customer. So think about how much you can invest, how fast you can grow your company if you're spending $350, up to $350 per new client, versus keeping it capped at $50 per customer. It's a really, really big difference. And you could confidently spend $300 to $400 to acquire a new customer. Now, this is assuming you can cash flow, right? Assuming you can be sustainable in the meantime. That's the other part of the equation you have to look at is can I swing this in the short term while I'm building my client base? But if you know the lifetime value is $700, in theory, like if you were dead bent on growth, and let's say you wanted to just get your customer base as big as possible because you were planning like some kind of exit or something like that, you could in theory spend like $650 to acquire a customer, with the goal of trying to acquire maybe 80-90% of the new customers available in your area. You can be super, super aggressive if you wanted to be, because you know your numbers. You know the lifetime value of that customer, and you could grow your base really aggressively. Now, at the same time, you could also say, well, let's make this a little more moderate. Like, let's say we'll spend up to $150 per customer, and that'll still give me $550 of profit from over the lifetime of the customer after I've acquired them. So it's not, knowing your lifetime value doesn't tell you everything you need to know in terms of how much you should invest, but it allows you, it's a critical piece of information you need to know, because it tells you how much can you spend on advertising and still break even. And once you know that number, you can back it off from there to how much do I want to profit versus how fast do I want to grow my company. And so you can dial it up or dial it down. But knowing the lifetime value of the customer is extremely critical. I think this is so easy, especially I want to say, any company can fail to really fully account for this. In the e-commerce world, I think this is a very well-known fact that people are very familiar with. But I think sometimes in service businesses, people are really not, small business owners are really not as aware of this as they should be. And I know it's easy, like when you're running a small business, you can be very conscious of what are my expenses, and I need to support my family off of this. I can't be too aggressive, and that's totally fine. But the lifetime value really helps you take a longer term view of this. So let's say you're a window washer, and on average, customers will they'll call you back, or you'll get to wash their windows 3 times, let's say on average. So the first time after they saw your ad and they contacted you and you went and did the project, and let's say you make $100 per per time that you visit them. Now hopefully it's higher than that. Hopefully it's much better than that. But let's say it's only $100. So in that case, if it's $100 of profit, then you could, and on average, you wash windows 3 times for every customer. That means your lifetime value is $300. And so while your window washing competitors are looking at it as like, well, I can never spend more than $100 to acquire a customer because then I would have zero profit. They're just thinking short term. They're thinking only the first transaction with that customer, and they're not going to be that aggressive because they're not thinking like you are. You're thinking, as an aggressive window washer, you know that each customer is worth $300, and you will happily spend $150 to acquire a new customer that would otherwise go to your competition. You're happy to spend $150 to get the new customer because you know you'll still make $150. So it's like you have your vending machine and you can stick in $150 and $300 pops out. How often are you gonna put the $150 in? I mean, pretty often, right? So as often as you can afford to instill cash flow, right? So that's the difference that it makes when you know what your lifetime value is. You can invest accordingly. You can make smart decisions, and you can potentially profitably outspend your competitors and grow your market share and grow your company because you know your numbers.